Are you thinking about making a move to Topeka, Kansas in 2024? Let's talk about how affordable it really is. Making a move is one of the biggest decisions you and your family can make, especially if you're moving from another state. You're going to have all kinds of questions about schools, affordability, parts of town, location of different services. We'd be happy to assist you with any of that. Something we don't bring up very often is if you have a home in another state, we have a large network of referral partners that can help you where you are right now in selling your home if you are considering moving into Kansas. So reach out to us. We'd love to discuss your needs and help you in any way.
Reason number one, Topeka is affordable. All of our great food options. Starting with locally owned restaurants, we have some that are quite a few that are very affordable, all the way up to some of our high-end restaurants. My favorite is that we have so many locally owned ones. So like Pizzagles is a really great breakfast spot, and they actually have pizza as well, so it's kind of good for both. I really love Blind Tiger. It's a local brewery that has really good food, and they actually sponsor one of the tigers at the Topeka Zoo. They actually have it up on one of their TVs. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but you can watch the tiger while you're eating. Yeah. And then also, grocery chains. There's local restaurants local grocery stores. And then we also have big chains. So Kroger, which is actually known as Dillon's to us, but it's owned by Kroger. We have Hy-Vee. So if you're a Chiefs fan, love that sponsorship. I think we've got Natural Grocers.
Yes, we do.
And then also Aldi. Gotta love Aldi. I personally don't do the grocery shopping in my family, but I do love as they call it, the aisle of shame at Aldi. So big fan of that.
And we also have Sam's Club and then some specialty grocery stores. There's TT Asian, which is just entirely Asian food. There's a couple of Indian grocery stores, as well as what's the big one up on Highway 24, the Mexican grocery store. Cannot think of the name of that offhand.
El Torito's is the restaurant right beside it. I'm trying to remember the name of it as well.
Same thing, very, very big, lots and lots of options, and all of those stores create a lot of competition, so prices are relatively good. Yeah. If you're like myself and my family, we budget every single month for how much we want to put out on food and groceries and how much we put out at restaurants.
We do too, and then we don't follow it.
Yeah. The nice thing is, if you don't follow it here, to some degree, you're still safe, because actually you can make your dollar go a long way.
So I've said this in other videos. We used to live in Scottsdale, and if you're coming from somewhere like Scottsdale or Las Vegas or Seattle or just any big city, you're going to hear us say lots of food options. You'll get here, and you might not feel exactly that same way. Compared to other small towns and cities of similar size, we have quite a few. We really do. Yeah. But it's not going to have quite the variety that you're going to have coming from some of those places. You don't end up going to those places very often anyway, from my experience. It was always nice to have them, but you tend to kind of, wherever you are, you go to your own local places. Yeah. So that's like that here, except for the whole town is pretty much your local place because it's all so close. We do not have a Whole Foods. I want to emphasize, we do not have a Whole Foods, or as I call it, Whole Paycheck. We do have a Natural Grocers, and actually I've grown to like that better. The prices are better. It's got a lot of the other things that the products that you get at Whole Foods or somewhere like that. But it does not have that huge Whole Foods deli that just ensnares you whenever you walk into Whole Foods. That place is amazing when it comes to that. So there are some things that are not present here, but as a whole, you have everything you need and considerably more as well. And there's a few other things that are easier to do here than other places. Every year, we have our own cow raised and processed, and not on our own land, but we do that with somebody local here. So we stock a freezer full of incredible grass-fed, antibiotic-free, and any other title you want to put on it, beef. So we do that, and there are some places to get fresh milk and things like that, and a lot of places that sell local places that sell local produce, like just the farmers market and just other people that you're going to run into at work. So the food options here in many ways might seem a little bit limited from the outset, but quite a bit food options once you really delve down into it.
And I think if you live here for more than 1 year, you're probably going to run into at least 5 people that you get local eggs from. That's just a thing.
We've got like 8 dozen in the fridge right now because we've got chickens, and at certain times of year, people will accost you at work with, "Do you want some tomatoes or zucchini or whatever?" Because
or
their garden's producing. Yeah,
you can't eat them all.
Yeah. So
as far as affordability goes, Topeka, lots of great options, and you can stretch your dollar pretty far with them.
Yeah.
Reason number 2, Topeka is affordable, and that is cost of transportation. We actually do not spend a whole heck of a lot of time on our cars, and if we do, it's because we're traveling great distances. The average time spent around the Topeka area is roughly 16 minutes versus a national average of 26, and that's commuting. But that also means if you're sitting in your car 16 minutes, more than likely you've traveled 10, 15 miles because there's just a lot of space to cover. So you're not sitting in traffic all day, like we've talked about before. Road construction is constantly a thing, but there's always a way around it. And really, no matter what part of Topeka you start in, you can go to the furthest point away from you on a map in about 15 minutes. So travel time is a lot less here than other bigger cities, meaning less fuel, less mileage, and less maintenance.
Yes.
If you're someone who gets to travel to like Kansas City or Lawrence or Manhattan for work, that's primarily on our Highway 70, which is about 75 miles an hour all the way there and back. Yeah. So again, costs for transportation are lower just due to the fact that we're in our vehicles a lot less around here because you get to everything pretty quickly.
Yeah. So if you did happen to work in Kansas City, even the traffic on I-70 is not bad, especially between Topeka and Lawrence. Now, between Lawrence and Kansas City, it picks up a little bit, but it's not going to be too bad unless you're happen to be traveling during like a Chiefs game or a Royals game or a race. So even then, 60 miles, 60 minutes or less, and it's really quite easy to drive from Topeka to Kansas City. And between Topeka and Manhattan, it's definitely an easy drive.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of congestion, no traffic. It's wide open.
Yeah.
So that's a fantastic thing. And it's just easier here when it comes to that travel and the expense with that. As a real estate agent, I work a lot of evenings and weekends, and of course that's when kids events are as well. The fantastic thing is I can be way out Southwest and doing a listing presentation or showing a home or what have you, and be out Northeast to a kid's soccer game still within like 15 minutes. And that's a pretty good distance, but the traffic is just non-existent for the most part. And the roads, I think, are actually pretty well set up, especially when you consider how the highway system is, the I-470 loop, I-70 east and west, and the surface streets aren't that packed either. So all in all, inexpensive for transportation and easy to get around, especially compared to places like Phoenix, Seattle, New York, even most big cities in Midwestern states are going to be much more congested than Topeka. So come enjoy it.
I thought of another good example for this. I had a gentleman call me about a month back. He wanted me to come evaluate his home for a listing. The time he had available was about 30 minutes out from the time he called me. I was able to get myself and my 2 kids from about north central Topeka to our office at southwest Topeka and drop off my kids with Ms. Becky, print paperwork, and then get to his house a couple miles south, all in under 30 minutes without speeding or anything crazy. It's just that was very doable from the Topeka standpoint in travel.
And being from Kansas City, it's comical coming out here because they're doing a little bit of construction on one of the highways heading north, and so people are just like avoided, traffic jam, and it's just comical to me because your traffic jam is like 5 minutes you have to wait to get across the bridge. So definitely makes it affordable when you're not sitting in traffic for 45, 50 minutes part of your commute. So.
Now, lifelong Topekans will occasionally complain about traffic. My mother does from time to time. Like during the Christmas season, traffic's just horrible on Wanamaker. That means you had to set through one red light. So that's all that means.
My daughter's 6, and we were sitting at a stoplight, and we actually hit it. Like we were at it, and then we hit it again. And so we were sitting there and she said, Mommy, is this a traffic jam? I said, oh, baby, you've never seen a
Should-
traffic jam.
should absolutely say,
This is what it is.
So Topeka overall, as far as transportation goes, very affordable.
Reason number 3 that Topeka is more affordable is housing. Housing is definitely more affordable here, whether you're renting or purchasing. Average rent rates are around $870, $871, I think is what we found. Did you find that in Rent Cafe?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the average. I see $900 to $1,200, a little bit more, but that's taken the whole scope into it when it comes probably from a studio apartment all the way to a 4-bedroom. That makes that $871 average. If we do work with rentals, it's usually more individual single family properties. So that $900 to $1,200 is more likely to see. You're more likely to see that when it comes to a single family. When it comes to purchasing a home, the average here is right around $183,000, and that's $183,000 it is, and that's according to Forbes. Now we work in the multiple listing services agents, and that varies day by day, the average, but that's pretty darn close. That's what you can somewhat count on. The market here is still moving pretty fast, and of course it is a decreased inventory compared to several years ago, but people still have more options here than a lot of other cities, and the prices are still really affordable. Even if you have to compete and there's a house that's $150,000 or $160,000 and you have to pay $170,000 or $180,000, or likewise if you're buying something in the threes and you have to pay a little bit more for it, that's still a far sight cheaper than most other cities, even in the Midwest. So it's very affordable when it comes to that. So what to expect when you're actually purchasing a home is you want to actually work with a qualified agent, get your criteria down, and when you see something you like, you don't want to think about it 2 or 3 days. You want to decide what you need and like ahead of time, and then when you're ready, when you see that, then you're ready to act on it.
And on that note, I think a lot of people are really concerned about overpaying for a house. With the right agent and the right local lender who has a team around them, like appraiser and everything else, you really can't overpay for a house because they're going to have tools and systems in place to ensure that doesn't happen. You might end up paying more top of market at the time, but still you're never going to end up overpaying for a house because appraiser just simply won't let you, or at least the bank won't.
Yeah. If it doesn't appraise, then that's absolutely the case. And the other thing, when you consider the cost of home ownership versus renting, the other thing I was going to say about renting here, there are options, and it's great. Most people, they're going to want to purchase because you get so much more for your money disproportionately here than other places. And it's not that there's not good rentals, there are, but what you can rent a great place for versus buy a great place for, the gap is not that big compared to a lot of places. So most people will opt for home ownership.
When I moved out here, I was right at the end of 19, moving into 20 years old, and I got my first apartment, which was at the Overlook. It was a 2-bed, 1-bath for $600 a month. And then about a year later, my real estate agent, Patrick Haberger, helped my wife and I find our first home. And my mortgage on that particular home right now is $625 a month. So difference between renting and owning, it's all mine. I'm actually creating equity. Yeah. And you'll find stories like that all across Topeka where it just makes sense to purchase out here.
Yeah. I remember my first home, 621 McVicker, and I bought it for $31,500 in the year of our Lord, 1998. So it's been a while, but now that's still not $31,500 today. It'd be far greater price. But I mean, it's very affordable here compared to most places.
Reason number 4 that Topeka is affordable, it is our schools. Topeka has some really highly rated schools in the state of Kansas, and I can only really compare it to what I pay for my daughter. We paid $41 in fees for the entire year. Now that does include,
you love your kids' school too.
I
right?
do. I love my kids' school. That doesn't include field trips and tiny things like that. But as far as the fee for sending my kid to that school, it was $41. And, I can't really give a price comparison to other schools. I just know anywhere in Topeka you go, it's going to be around that same price. I will say They do also offer an after-school program for working parents that is way cheaper than daycare, and they actually keep them on site, at least in Washburn Rural, which is where my daughter goes. They have something where the kids can stay on site, they play games with them, they do homework, and it's about a fourth of the cost of sending my kids to daycare after school.
That's nice.
And I know your kids go to private school.
They do.
So compared to, like, say, Kansas City or somewhere like that, how
So private school, we're definitely paying more than $41 in fees. I'm really jealous right now. We love our kids' school as well. It's been fantastic for them. And whatever your reasons for going to private school, there's several different options. There's Topeka Collegiate. That's more of a college preparatory school. There's Heritage Christian School. There's Caprova Latin Classical Christian School. There's several others, Most Pure Heart, and that's just to name a few. There's others out there as well. And it's also a good homeschooling environment. There's a lot of opportunities there with co-ops and whatnot. Now, regarding the private schools, while they're considered more expensive than going to public, it is still way less expensive than most other places, especially like-kind schools. When I look at the tuition that I pay here and the quality of education that my kids are getting in the school they're going to, if I continued to live in like Phoenix area or some other large city, it would be at least twice as much. Even right down the road in Kansas City, similar schools, the schools that we play in sports are 2 to 3 times as expensive, the tuition. Whether it's like Pembroke Hill or Barstow or any of those schools up there. Some beautiful facilities, but man, they're paying for it compared to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and we have great programs at our schools. I mean, when it comes to sports, Washburn Rural has all of them, and our school plays Washburn Rural in tennis and some other sports as well. And we have great offerings. A lot of the public schools have all the sports. The private schools, not quite as much on variety in sports, but a lot of good options as well. So homeschooling. I don't know. Tell us about sports and homeschooling there, Jacob.
Well, there's a lot of co-ops and a lot of different groups and options. There's a good community for homeschoolers in Topeka. Costs obviously range like crazy, just depending on what you want to do with your kids as far as sports and everything else under the sun. But overall, there's a lot of support here for homeschooling, which is fantastic. For my wife, because she homeschools our 2 kids full time. We both come from homeschooling families, so I do appreciate a really good support system in the homeschool community.
And a lot of those homeschool kids go to, they play club sports too at a very high competitive level.
And I mean, if you're thinking about a particular school and pricing, you're probably thinking about it as in what it's going to cost to live within that school district. So for us, for instance, if you wanted to go to like Siemens School District, which is northwest, or Washburn Rural, which is southwest, there's still a lot of really, really great affordable options for housing, groceries, travel, everything else we talked about. Living in any one of our school districts is actually affordable, especially
very much so
coming from out of state.
There's not a school district that doesn't have some affordable housing in it. If you really want a particular school district, there's always some affordable options in housing, which will put you in the district and allow your kids to go to that particular school.
So schooling overall, affordable.
Yeah, very much so.
Reason number 5 on why Topeka is affordable is our medical system. Now, if you go to like Forbes right now, you'll find that we rank kind of right in the middle of all 50 states as far as most expensive to least, but we do have a very, very robust medical system. We also have some 50 dentists and then a bunch of specialty offices. So there is a top tier medical system here in Topeka instead of having to go all the way out to Kansas City or another town for most things. And on top of that, we also have just over 20 long-term care facilities. And our average here in Topeka for long-term care is actually $3,700 a month, where the Kansas average is a little over $4,000 and the national average is a little over $4,200. So if you're bringing loved ones with you that you want to move to Topeka, and at some point they might need long-term care, it's a lot more affordable here than it is really anywhere else.
Absolutely. So, and if you did need some further medical attention, Kansas City also has a very robust medical system, and it's only an hour away. So we thank God we don't have to use a whole lot of that, but it is right down the road, and there's some nationally ranked hospitals and programs.
I mean, there's Children's Mercy that's just a little over an hour from here, and you move to some other, other towns and you're 8 hours away from the closest children's hospital. I mean, having young kids, that's on my mind.
Sure.
And you kind of hear these stories about people that get diagnosed with cancer or whatever, and they have to move, the mom moves to a city to be close to the children's hospital. We're very, very blessed that we're very close to that stuff. And that they have really good programs, specifically like Children's Mercy has a really good program to help you afford to go. You don't have insurance. They have things. I know specifically, I had a spine surgery when I was 16 and my parents' insurance dropped me. I know this wasn't like part of the plan, but and they had programs that helped us pay for that $100,000 surgery, and there was very little out of pocket for my parents for something that massive. So there's definitely just options.
Yeah, and speaking of accessibility, I have a family member who is terminally ill. He has to go to Children's Mercy regularly. And as much as they have to go out there, if it was any further than Kansas City, my in-laws would probably have to move just because of that. But again, like you said, because it's all Highway 70 there and back, it's pretty darn easy for them to go see the specialist out of town and come right back and still live a pretty easy life.
Yeah, and and this is kind of a little off the cuff here too, but there's a couple different, say someone's self-employed and they don't have quite the same insurance. There are like some subscription based, I think they're called medical co-ops. You pay in and basically there's a few of those services out. We're part of one of those since we're self-employed. It's been very helpful and keeps the cost down too. So there's some pretty innovative stuff. There's also, like you said, a lot of dentists, a lot of chiropractors. There's some alternative medicine here and even more in Kansas City. So just depending what your needs are, there are options and they're not far away.
So overall, wrapping up why Topeka is so affordable, I wanted to mention that we actually rank in the top 10 of the cheapest states to live in the entire U.S. We land at number 9, so number 9 out of 50. So all of those things that we've talked about, kind of wrap that all together, makes our average living cost around $35,000 to be able to sustain life here. I'm not sure what it is in other states, but we rank number 9.
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
So Topeka is more affordable in just about any area you can imagine than the vast majority of places in the U.S. Whether it's housing, transportation, education, what have you, food, especially housing. We live in a house that would be very difficult for us to afford if we stayed in Scottsdale, Arizona, or even most other places in the U.S. Even Kansas City, right down the road about 60 miles. This would be much harder to afford there. So we're really happy with our home. It's 4,200 square foot home. It's got a pool and an outbuilding, and that would be astronomical. And it's on 5 acres. Yeah. So I mean, that would be astronomical if we were still in Arizona or most other places in the nation. So we definitely have a much higher standard of living here for the dollars than most other places. We have more here than we could hope to have in many other cities. So, and I'm sure you all feel the same.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to thank you guys for watching all the way through this video. We really appreciate it. It's going to help us continue to put out more content like this. If you would please like and subscribe, and that way you're aware of the next video that comes out, because we are putting these out weekly. Also, again, if you do have any questions, or we started piquing your interest on maybe moving to Topeka as your next home, please reach out to us. We would love to talk with you. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.